What's up guys, Qehzy or Noah here bringing you guys another tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you how to create this 2D header in Photoshop. Now this header was for Rondo, who's a buddy of mine, and I actually worked on it with him. So he actually sent me something to start with, and I went ahead and created this. I asked him if it was okay if I went ahead and made a tutorial on it, and he was down. So big shout out to Rondo. I don't know if I'll be giving away this template. Usually I give away the Photoshop files at 100 likes and post them on my Patreon. I have to get permission from Rondo first since he is using this. But if he gives the okay, that will be this will be available to download at 100 likes and will be available on my Patreon. Speaking of which, you can get videos early on my Patreon along with everything in my store, the Template FC store, and a bunch of other just good stuff. Like you get my projects that I'm working on and a bunch of files. There's a ton of stuff already over there, so if you go and sign up for the $15 tier or whatever, you're definitely going to get your money's worth. So check that out. Anyways, let's just go ahead and get started with the tutorial. We're going to go ahead and set up the document, and I'm going to go ahead and create a new document, 3000 by 1000, which is the Twitter header size. I'm going to go ahead and hit create. I'm also going to go ahead and just grab the things that Rondo had in the document for me when he sent it over. So this is what he had set up for me already, and he might have actually had a different background color, his kind of gray here. And I'm going to show you the colors he used, but these are his colors that he uses already. So if you're following along, you might want to mix up the colors just so you don't have the same thing as him. But anyways, the gray he was using was 2D2829, and then the green was 93C948. And you can see what he sent me was pretty basic, and you can replicate this pretty easily. You might need a certain type of logo to get this effect, but basically you can see it's two stripes. The logo is on top of those two stripes, and obviously the color changes depending on where the logo is overlapping on the stripes, and where it's not, it's just the green. And we have the three different colors there. So I'm not going to show you that part exactly. I'm hoping you're able to replicate that yourself. And then the prices here, you can put whatever you'd want to the other side, or just not have anything. I'm obviously going to keep it. But before we actually start doing anything, I want to point out that I will be using a plugin called Comic Kit, which is one that you might have seen in my previous tutorials. It's a free plugin for Photoshop that you can just add to your Photoshop by visiting the website in the description. It's just the Adobe add-ons website. And I'll also be using a couple brushes from my store, some Photoshop brushes, and I actually just redid that whole brush pack. So there's a lot of awesome brushes in there. If you want to check it out, the link for that will be in the description as well. But you could use other brushes or use some custom shapes. And then everything else, we're just going to be using normal Photoshop elements. But let's go ahead and get started. So we have these elements in place. And the first thing I went about doing was adding a few more bar elements. I'm going to refer to these as bars, these stripes, I guess. And we're going to go ahead and get the rectangle tool over here. I'm going to flip my foreground color to green, and we're going to use that. You could also duplicate the rectangles you create for this effect if you have already recreated this effect. But these shapes for me aren't, they're normal layers, they're not shape layers. You can see the difference, the shape layers you can change colors of easily. So I'm going to be using the rectangle tool to create a few more. I'm going to come over this green stripe here and kind of get the same width, like so. And I'm going to press Command T, and I'm going to rotate this 45 degrees by holding Shift and pressing Command T to transform it like that. And I'm going to align this towards the bottom here. And then using these anchor points and holding Shift, I'm just going to extend this stripe off the top of the canvas. And then we can go ahead and duplicate that with Command J. And I'm going to add a similar one at the bottom right corner here. Maybe somewhere right there. But I don't want two of the same thicknesses. So I'm going to create a layer mask on this, but I'm actually going to hit Command and click the thumbnail. And then I'm going to click the circular marquee tool here, or it could be the rectangular one, it doesn't matter. And if you click and drag, you can move this down. So I'm going to try to bisect that so it's like split in half, like so. And then I'm going to press the layer mask and it should cut off the portion that was not selected. I'm going to go ahead and select all of these bars we have so far and group them and call them bars. And let's go ahead and duplicate this original angled bar. And I'm going to move it to the top and I'm going to double click on it and make it white. I'm going to drag that one over a little bit, like so, maybe even down. We'll go somewhere here. So we want this to be, we want to add another point here. So let's figure out how low we want to go. Maybe, I don't want to go right in the middle. I want it to be a little higher. So maybe something like that. And then if we duplicate this layer with Command J again, press Command T to transform, right click, flip vertical, and then we can just drag this one up and align it like so, and press enter. So now we have this angle here. I'm going to select both of those white ones and actually bring them below the green one, so that is behind. And I'm going to go to the one that is at the top here, this angle, which I believe is this one, and I'm going to Command J and duplicate that one again. And we're going to move that one up here. And you could either align it here, so you have a little space between it and the green diagonal, or you can have it all the way down so it leaves a space at the right angle part here and doesn't quite connect with the other angled white bar. I did something like this, and then I added a layer mask and used one of my brushes. I have black selected right now, so if I go to my brush pack, I have this kind of gradient stripe brush, and I'm gonna set the angle to 45 degrees, and using the bracket key, I'm gonna decrease the size and click on it like so. So now that effect is on that bar, and that kind of breaks it up so there's not so much white. You can also then go ahead and move that around and find a better spacing for it. I think it's still a little too close to the other white bars, so I'm gonna space it out just slightly more, and maybe bump it up since that layer mask was looking a little funky. And there we go. I'm pretty happy with that. And we're gonna add one more. So if we get this original white bar and duplicate that, bring it over a little bit, I want to actually have it towards the bottom part of our header here. And I'm just going to get the rectangular marquee tool and cut off the top like that. And I'm going to press the layer mask, and then on the layer mask, which should be selected right now, just press Command I, and now we have a little cutoff bar here at the bottom, and we can do whatever with that. I'm just going to kind of leave it here in the center. Alright, now we're going to add some overlays. So I'm going to create a new layer, and these are going to be some white overlays that are kind of at the same angle as these bars. So I'm going to get the pen tool, and I'm going to click, hold shift, and go at a 45-degree angle, which matches the angles of everything else. And then holding shift, go straight across, and then holding shift, go down again, and then finish it off there by connecting it. Now obviously this isn't a straight line because it was kind of free-handed, but if we just I'm going to press Command T and increase the size of this a little bit, maybe move it over. I'm going to Command click off, right click, fill path, white, OK, right click, delete path, get the rectangular marquee tool again, and then just cut off the bottom here. So if we select this area at the bottom and just press delete, now we have a straight edge at the bottom, which is what we want. And we are going to set this to overlay, and we're going to place this a few times throughout the canvas here. So first one is going to be kind of over top of these prices, and we'll duplicate it and maybe go up here, along with these bars, something like that, and then maybe duplicate it one more time and kind of go over to the left side, and I don't know, something like that, so it gets that bottom left corner. And I think that's pretty good. You can also then group these and mess with the overlay. So maybe you want to go to 50 so it's doesn't stand out as much. And I'm going to call these W overlays. Now above the white overlays, we're going to create a new layer, and this time we're going to do some dark overlays. So I'm going to get the pen tool again, and we're going to go down to the bottom here and click. We're going to give a little space away from the white bar, but we're going to follow that same white bar angle of 45. Click a little further up, and then holding shift, go ahead and click over to the left to complete the 90-degree angle again, and then come around the right side and fill that in. Right click, fill path, this time black. Okay, right click, delete path, and we're going to go ahead, set that to overlay, and we're going to make that opacity maybe 40-ish, and that'll darken everything on that side. And we can go ahead and do that again. I did it over here in like this triangular space. So I'm going to come here, click, hold shift, go to the top, hold shift, go to the right, and then close it off. And you might have to mess around with this to get it perfectly straight. That's pretty good. I'm going to press Command T and just bump it up a little bit so it's a little more even, more evenly spaced around everything. And do the same thing, right click, fill path, black, right click, delete path, overlay, in about 40%. Okay, now we're going to go to the very bottom, go to the color fill and create another new layer. Get the brush tool, and this time just get a soft brush. And we'll mess with the size. Yeah, actually 900 will probably be pretty good. And I have that green selected, so I'm just going to go ahead and use that, but we're going to be changing it to white. And I'm going to click down here, kind of where these stripes come from, so like they're coming out of this area. And I'm going to press Command U on that layer and bump the lightness all the way up so now it's white. And I'm going to set this to overlay, so we have like a little bit of sort of a light source coming from down here. And we're going to create another new layer then, and I'm going to get another one of my brushes. Now this is actually something you can easily create yourself, which is just a couple horizontal bars, and this brush just makes it a lot easier in my opinion. So I'm going to make this a little smaller and go ahead and I'm going to click and drag a little bit to create a bit of a striping effect here. Again, I'm going to press Command U and bump up the lightness so it is completely white. And then on this black overlay that's on the right side, so this one, I'm going to press Command and click that thumbnail. And then on this stripes brush layer, I'm going to press the layer mask, and then on the layer mask, press Command I. So now we have this striping effect that gets cut off on the same angle as that dark overlay. And also on that layer mask, I'm going to get my brush and I'm going to get a soft brush this time. And make sure black is selected. And go ahead and erase most of this left side. And kind of follow it up like so. So it kind of gives a shadow to the solid white bar here. And then we're going to use the arrow keys on this layer. I'm going to click the actual layer and bump it over a tiny bit and set it to overlay. And now we have this kind of neat striping effect going on here, and we can bump down the opacity so it's not too overwhelming, maybe to about 50. Now I'm going to go ahead and select the white layer, white overlay layer from the bottom left, and go all the way up to the dark overlays and group all these together and just call it BG elements. Now we're actually going to go into the BG elements then and go to that striping effect we created and go ahead and duplicate it with Command J and bring it above the bars group. And now go ahead and move that over to the right side a little bit and get that effect going at the bottom here a little bit. It's also appearing at the top corner. I kind of don't want it there, so I'm going to go to the layer mask and get a black soft brush and kind of erase that. And now I'm actually going to increase the opacity a little bit more since this is a darker area. And maybe we'll just go all the way to 100. And we'll also create another new layer and a soft brush. I'm going to increase the size of the brush again. This time a little bigger than 900. We'll go 1200 and go to the top right. Boom. And again, it's green, so we're going to just go ahead and make it white and set that to overlay. Now we're actually going to go ahead and use that Comic Kit plugin I mentioned at the beginning of the video. So we're going to go ahead and create a new layer for this. And I'm going to just call this layer dots because that's essentially what we're going to be creating. And I have a brush similar to this effect we're going to create, but I'm not going to use it, just to show you how to go about using the plugin. So on this blank layer, we're going to go to Edit Fill, and we're going to go to Pattern, check Script, and go to Screen Pattern X, click OK, and now this is something I was messing with, but if we go to the default, you can see we have all of these dots. We have this like halftone gradient effect going on, but what we want to create are a evenly spaced allotment of these dots. So if we go to pattern scale 2 and knock this down to 0.4 might be too much, maybe 0.2, and then pattern scale 1, do the same thing. So we have all these little dots here, and if we click OK, I'm actually not sure this sizing will be correct. This might be too big or too small, and they look a little too small, so let's press Command Z on that and go back, maybe double the size of them. Actually, I'm going to go to 0.05, click OK, and that's a little better. So you can see we have all these little tiny dots, and what we're going to do is click the layer mask and then press Command I. So now it's completely invisible, and these dots are actually black, and so we're going to use black and white dots. So if we enable that again and press Command J to duplicate it, these will be dots. We'll actually make them white dots, and on that layer we're just going to press Command I. So you can't see it with the layer mask, but if I disable it, you can see these are the white dots. Now, so we have dots, which are the black dots, and the white dots. Now on the layer mask, we're actually going to use the pen tool and make them appear in different areas. So the black dots are going to appear on some of the lighter areas, and the white dots are going to appear on some of the darker areas. And that's why we have both. So for the black dots, we want to go in a few places. So right here I thought was a good spot, so let's go ahead and click on the bottom, hold shift, go up a little bit, hold shift, create a 45-degree angle, hold shift and go down and close that off. Over here's another one at the top. I'm going to click off here, hold shift, go down to this green bar, and then go off like that, close that up, and then maybe have one over on the other side here. So let's just go ahead and click off. Let's bisect the green bar, hold shift, go to the left a little bit, and then close it off. I'm going to press Command and click off, so not any of these paths are selected. Right click, fill path, and we're on the layer mask, fill it with white, OK, right click, delete. So now we have this dot texture going on here, and looking at this now and comparing it to the original, I should have done one thing, which is in the Comic Kit fill. So if you fill that, we should have spaced these out a little bit. So pattern per inch. Actually knock that down. So this one, you want to knock that down a little more. So it would have been a little nicer. I'm going to click OK here, but that's not what I wanted to do. But for the white dots then, now we want to go ahead and add them to some of the darker spots. So we created this dark triangle over here, and I'm just going to go ahead and follow that for one spot. This whole bottom area, so from right here up and then close, there's another spot. And then maybe the top right corner here, just do like a little small one there. And you could do some more, but I think that's pretty good. I'm going to command click off again, right click, fill path, white, right click, delete path. And I really don't like those, so I'm actually going to go ahead and create these new ones real fast with the better spacing. So 37 patterns per inch. That spacing is a lot better. So I'm going to duplicate it, command I. I'm going to press command on the layer mask for the white dots, and on this new white dots layer, I'm going to press the layer mask. Command click on the black dots original layer, go to the new black dots, click the layer mask, hide those, and there we go. That's a lot better. And now they're renamed. You could also set those to overlay or leave them on normal. I'm going to leave them on normal. Now we're going to go ahead and add a few more little bars. Now these are going to be like thinner bars to mix it up a little bit. And there's a few different sizes of these ones. So we're going to go with the slightly thicker ones, which we can just use the same bars we used before. So I'm going to come down to, I'm looking for this white bar here, which is this one, and I'm going to duplicate that guy and bring it to, oops, I'm going to bring it outside of the bars layer and group it into a new group just called thin. And I'm going to take that one and move it over to the right a little bit. And this is actually going to be green. And I'm going to bring it up a little bit and then press command on it. And doing that same thing we did earlier, again, the marquee tool and holding shift and bringing that over. We're going to make this pretty thin. Maybe something like that, and then press the layer mask, don't mind my dock, and then press command I, so we have this thin one. And then we're gonna bring that back down, align it pretty close to the white bars there, and then duplicate it and have it follow the white bars in the same way. So I'm gonna hold shift to bring it up. Align it like so, that's pretty cool. And actually I'm going to go to that one's layer mask, and if I just cut out this top part, flip my background color to black and press command delete to fill, the layer mask kind of gets rid of that little edge there. And there's a thin one. I'm going to duplicate that first one, bring it to the top, double click and make it white. And I'm going to bring this one to partner R1 here at the bottom right corner. Now I'm going to go ahead and create a new layer and get a brush, and this one's going to be a hard brush and a size of about 3. And with that brush tool then, we just want to go ahead and create a long line across the document like so. That's pretty big, and we're just going to duplicate that and rotate it and whatnot. But you can see it's kind of duller compared to the other green, so I'm going to duplicate it once and then merge both those together, or merge those both together, and I'm just going to call this thin just so it's different. And I'm going to press command T, rotate this guy, and let's set him up somewhere else. So maybe about here. Duplicate him, command T, right click, flip vertical, hold shift and bring him up and have them connect. There we go. I'm going to duplicate the original then, press command U, lightness all the way up, drag this one over to the right a little bit and then up so it continues on. There we go. I'm going to duplicate that white one again and bring him over to the left side now and have him, we'll go in this dark space here, maybe duplicate it again and have it, I don't know, peek out here. That's pretty cool. And let me duplicate it one more time and bring it over to this other side and press Command I to make it black. And we'll just have that one go through the green. And obviously you can play around with those a little more, but that adds a little more interest to the overall design then. So now we have 3 different sizes of bars, which mixes it up a bit so it's not all the same sizing. I'm going to go ahead, close that group. These dot layers, I'm going to also group, call them dots. And we're going to go ahead and create a new layer and add a few brushes. So I'm going to go to my colors here. I have green, and on the dark gray, I'm going to make that white now. I'm going to get my brush tool, and I'm going to get that brush we used earlier to create that effect on that bar. And we're going to add that a few other places. So let's grab that. It's 45 degrees again, which is what we want. I'm going to flip to the green, and I'm going to add this one over to the top right, like so. And maybe we rotate it the other way and have it come over here at the bottom. I think that's good spacing between the 3 of them. And I actually have 2 more brushes I want to add. So if we go to my new brush pack, I have this brush that's pretty interesting. I'm going to decrease the size of it so it's a little smaller and create a new layer. And you can see this brush isn't anything too crazy. You can easily recreate it if you wanted to, or just use a different brush. It's up to you. With the green selected, I'm going to go ahead and add this one over into like this dark area, maybe there. And I'm going to flip to white then and add this over here, and then maybe one down here. I'm going to create another new layer and add one more brush. And this brush is actually from my first brush pack, which is like this UFO of square blocks, I guess. I don't know. It reminds me of a stealth bomber, but it's this pretty cool shape, and I'm going to decrease the size of that. With the white selected, I'm going to go ahead and add it to like the bottom right corner there, and then flip it back to the green. Maybe add it here, and at the top, we'll maybe increase the size, put it there too. But you can see why I use it, because it has that same 45-degree angle to it as everything else, so it kind of fits in with everything we're doing here. I'm going to go ahead and group those layers then and call them brushes. And we're going to go to the very top now and create a new layer and go down here and click the black it to white. So now we have black and white as our colors. Go to the brush tool and just get a soft brush again. And we are going to go ahead with the soft brush, create 2 overlays, one black, one white. So with the black selected, we're going to go hold shift and go across the bottom, create a new layer, do the same thing with white, go across, select them both, go to overlay and bump down the opacity to about 50, create a new layer, and with black we want to go ahead and just add a few spots in here. So go ahead and click around like so and set that to overlay and maybe like 40% again. And we're going to go ahead and create another new layer. Get the rectangular marquee tool and just fill your whole document with it, and then get the brush tool and flip to white. And at the top, go ahead and just create a streak that's a little thinner than the one we created earlier, and press Command D to deselect. If you press Command T, then we have this shape here, which we're going to rotate 45 degrees. Press Enter and set that to overlay. And now we have this kind of light effect that we can add in a few places. So I'm going to go ahead and add this along the green line here. I'm actually going to flip it the other way first and add it right there. Decrease the opacity a little bit because you can see it's a little too bright. And I'm going to duplicate it and add it a few more places, so maybe along this white line going through. and then one more time, maybe at the bottom. That's pretty good. And then if we select everything and group it with Command G and then Command J to duplicate and Command E to merge, everything will be together in one layer. And we can go ahead and add some small color corrections. So one thing I did was I went down and went to levels, bring this guy in a little bit, and then bring the left guy in to darken it up. That's pretty good. And then that's pretty much it. But that's the tutorial, guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe for more tutorials. Be sure to check out my channel for all the other tutorials I've made. I have like 250. I also have some classes over on Skillshare, and you can actually get 2 months free with my link, which is in the description. Check that out. Be sure to check my Patreon out for all my design files and things like that. Check out my store for some of my presets and stuff I use, like my brushes, layer styles, Cinema 4D stuff. A lot of good stuff there. Thank you guys for watching this. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.